We hate waiting. Whether it's waiting for an answer to prayer, for a door to open, or for a dream to come alive, delays can feel like God's silence, or worse, His absence. But what if I told you that some of the most important work God will ever do in your life happens in the waiting? In the Bible, delays are never wasted time. Joseph waited 13 years before his God-given dream came true. Moses waited 40 years in the wilderness before leading Israel out of Egypt. Even Jesus waited 30 years before starting his ministry. Here's the truth: God's delays are not denials. They're divine appointments. Seasons of waiting are often seasons of shaping, where God is preparing you for the very thing you've been praying for. But here's the challenge in the middle of it. Delays don't feel holy. They feel frustrating. They test your faith, stretch your patience, and expose what's really in your heart. That's why today, we're going to uncover 7 powerful ways God uses delays to shape your destiny and how you can stop wasting your waiting. Because once you understand what He's doing behind the scenes, you'll stop despising the delay and start trusting the process. So if you've been asking, why is God taking so long? Stay with me. The answer might change how you see your entire season. Way number 1, delays protect you from dangers you can't yet see. A modern life scenario. You've been praying for a new job for months. You've sent out SMS, aced interviews, even gotten to the final round with your dream company. And then, nothing. Silence. Another. We've decided to move forward with other candidates. Email lands in your inbox. It's not that you're unqualified. In fact, you might be overqualified. It's not that you're lazy. You've been diligent. It just feels like every time the door starts to open, it slams shut again. You're left wondering, why would God dangle this opportunity in front of me just to take it away? But here's the truth you can't yet see: that dream company is about to go through massive layoffs. That job offer you wanted so badly would have uprooted your family for a city you'd quickly realize you hate. That relationship you were sure was the one would have left you spiritually drained and emotionally scarred. God's delays are often His protection in disguise. Biblical example: Moses in the palace vs. Moses in the wilderness. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace, surrounded by privilege and power. At 40 years old, he thought he was ready to step into his calling as Israel's deliverer. When he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave, he acted in his own timing, not God's. He killed the Egyptian and tried to hide the body. Exodus to 11:12. Instead of launching into leadership, Moses was forced to flee into the wilderness for 40 years. At first glance, this looks like a setback, a delay of epic proportions. But in reality, God was protecting both Moses and Israel. Moses wasn't spiritually ready to lead a nation yet. Israel wasn't ready to follow him yet. Pharaoh's heart wasn't in the condition for the Exodus yet. In those 40 silent years, Moses learned humility, patience, and how to shepherd, skills you would need when leading a stubborn, wandering people through the desert. Had Moses stepped into leadership too early, his temper might have destroyed him in the mission. God's delay was divine protection from premature exposure to the weight of His calling. The spiritual principle is Amades, the no or not yet isn't God withholding a blessing. It's Him shielding you from a burden you're not equipped to carry yet. It's like a loving father who won't hand the car keys to his 12-year-old, not because he never intends for them to drive, but because He knows the damage that could happen if they take the wheel too soon. When God delays, He's often sparing you from the temptation you're not strong enough to resist yet, a responsibility that would crush you before it grows you, a situation that looks good on the outside, but is toxic underneath. Application to you today: you might feel like you're stuck in neutral, watching others speed past you into the blessings you've been praying for. You scroll through social media and see your friends getting married, landing promotions, buying houses, launching ministries, and you wonder why you're still here, waiting. But what if you could see the unseen? What if you knew that God was holding you back from a heartbreak, a financial disaster, a faith crisis, or a burnout that would derail your future? The delay you hate today might be the reason you're still standing tomorrow. God's delays are not rejections, they're redirections. He's not just thinking about what you want right now. He's thinking about who you'll be in 10 years, in 30 years, in eternity. Emotional cleansing. So when the next opportunity slips through your fingers, take a breath and ask, God, what are you protecting me from that I can't yet see? You might not get the answer right away. In fact, you might not know until years later. But one day, you'll look back and say, oh, that's why you didn't let me have it then. And in that moment, you'll thank Him for every delay that was actually a rescue mission in disguise. Way number 2, delays develop the strength you'll need. La Terra Modern Life Scenario. Imagine you've been training for a marathon. You've been running every day, pushing yourself, sweating, aching, but determined. Race day finally comes, and the organizers announce it's postponed for 6 more months. At first, you're frustrated. You've been ready. You've put in the work. You're in shape now. But as the weeks pass, you realize those extra months have made you stronger than you've ever been physically and mentally. When race day finally comes, you don't just run the marathon, you finish it with ease. That's what God's delays often do. They stretch the training period, so you're not just ready enough, you're unshakably ready. Biblical example, David anointed, but not yet king. When the prophet Samuel anointed David in 1 Samuel 16, David was just a shepherd boy. God had chosen him to be king over Israel, replacing Saul. But after the anointing, David didn't march into the palace. Instead, he went back to tending sheep. Years passed. During that time, David faced lions and bears while protecting his flock. He played the harp to calm Saul's tormented spirit. He fought Goliath when everyone else was afraid. He led men into battle and learned how to navigate political tension. David waited roughly 15 years from the moment he was anointed until the day he sat on the throne. That delay wasn't wasted. It built courage facing wild animals alone, skill perfecting his craft as a warrior, and leader, faith trusting God in hiding while Saul tried to kill him. By the time David became king, he wasn't just holding the title, he had the backbone, resilience, and heart to carry the weight of it. The spiritual principle God's delays are like the extra sets in the gym you don't want to do but need to. He knows the battles ahead of you require more than the strength you have today. Without the delay, you'd arrive at the blessing underbuilt. With the delay, you arrive prepared to not only receive it but to sustain it. Application to you today right now. You might feel like you've been in training far too long. You've been faithful in the small things. You've endured hardship. You've tried to keep your heart pure when it would have been easier to compromise. And still, the breakthrough hasn't come. Friend, God is not making you wait to punish you, He's making you wait to strengthen you. Think of the delays God's way of adding weight to the bar, not to break you, but to build your spiritual muscles. The people you'll serve in the future, the challenges you'll face, the responsibility you'll carry, they will require a version of you that is stronger than you are today. Emotional closeness. Every day you endure this season, you're adding endurance to your faith, depth to your wisdom, and power to your prayers. One day, when the door opens, you won't just walk through it, you'll run through it, steady and unshaken, because God trained you in the hidden place. The delay isn't robbing you, it's equipping you. And when you finally step into what God has prepared, you'll realize the waiting room was the weight room. Way number 3. Delays protect you from dangers you can't yet see. A real life scenario. Picture this: you're driving toward an important meeting that could change your life. You've left early, your route is planned, and you're making good time. Then, suddenly, traffic grinds to a halt. You're stuck for 40 minutes, frustrated, drumming your fingers on the wheel. When traffic finally clears and you get moving again, you see the twisted wreckage of a massive accident up ahead, an accident you could have been in had you been just a few minutes earlier. In that moment, you stop seeing the delay as an inconvenience and start seeing it as protection. Biblical example, Paul's closed doors in Acts 16. Paul and his companions were traveling to preach the gospel in Asia. They were passionate, eager, and ready to serve. But the Bible says the Holy Spirit forbade them from going there. Twice, they tried to enter new territory, and twice, God closed the door. It wasn't until Paul had a vision of a man from Macedonia begging for help that they understood where God wanted them to go. That redirection led them to Philippi, where they met Lydia, cast a demon out of a slave girl, and eventually established one of the most influential churches in the New Testament. The delay wasn't random, it was God's way of steering them away from one route and into the exact place they were meant to be. The spiritual principle is Amadeus. The delay you resent is actually a shield in God's hand. You think the pause is holding you back, but it's keeping you from a danger, a wrong relationship, a destructive opportunity, or even a spiritual trap you can't yet recognize. God sees the future in a way you never can. His delay is often his no to what will harm you and his wait for what will bless you. Application to you. That job that didn't call you back, that person who suddenly pulled away, that opportunity that looked perfect but vanished overnight. What if it wasn't rejection? What if it was redirection? It's hard to accept when you're in the middle of it. But one day, you'll look back and thank God for the doors that never opened. You'll realize that some blessings are actually disguised as no's, and some delays are disguised as detours. Emotional crossing. When you finally arrive at the place God's been leading you, you'll understand that every blocked path, Every not yet, and every season of waiting was him keeping you safe not just physically, but spiritually. And here's the truth, sometimes the most loving thing God can say is, I'm not letting you get there yet. The delay is not just a calendar issue, it's a covering. Way number 4, delays build strength. You'll need lateral real-life scenario image in a young soldier fresh out of training, eager to go into battle. He's strong, disciplined, and ready to prove himself. But his commander tells him to wait. Months pass, then a year, still no deployment. The soldier grows restless. He feels useless. But during that time, his skills sharpen, his endurance grows, and his understanding of strategy deepens. When the call finally comes, he's not just ready, he's equipped to lead others. The waiting wasn't wasted, it was conditioning. Biblical example, David. Before the throne of David was anointed king by Samuel while still a teenager. 1 Samuel 16. You'd think the crown would follow immediately, but instead, David went back to tending sheep. Years passed. He fought Goliath, served in Saul's court, fled for his life, hid in caves, and led a band of outcasts. It wasn't until about 15 years later that he finally became king. Those years in the wilderness weren't a punishment, they were God's training ground. Every battle fought, every hardship endured, every leadership decision in hiding prepared David for the weight of the throne. If David had skipped the delay, he might have skipped the growth that made him a great king. The spiritual principle. Delays often serve as spiritual gyms, places where your character, patience, and resilience are built. If he gave you your calling too soon, the weight of it might crush you. But in the waiting, he strengthens your faith muscles so that when the time comes, you can carry the blessing without breaking under it. Application to Utah. That ministry dream that hasn't launched, that business plan still sitting in your notebook, that calling you feel burning inside you. Maybe God isn't saying no, maybe he's saying, not yet, I'm still building you. The delay isn't a void, it's a construction site. God is laying down steel beams of endurance, concrete foundations of humility, and protective walls of discernment. Emotional crossing. When the day finally comes and the door swings open, you won't just step into your calling, you'll stand in it without crumbling. You'll realize the delay didn't weaken you, it forged you, and the strength you gain in waiting will be the very thing that sustains you in winning. Way number 5, delays teach you to depend on God, not your linear real-life scenario. Picture this, you've mapped out your entire life. Career milestones by 25, marriage by 28, house by 30, kids by 32, retirement plan by 50. It's all neat, tidy, and timed perfectly, until life happens. The job offer falls through, the relationship ends, the perfect opportunity vanishes. Suddenly, the timeline you built starts to crumble like sand in your hands. At first, you panic, then you start hustling harder. You tweak your plans. You try to force open closed doors, but nothing works. Eventually, you realize you're not in control. And maybe that's the point. Biblical example, Abraham and Sarah's waiting. God promised Abraham a son when he was 75 years old. Genesis 12. That's already late in life, and then God let him wait another 25 years before Isaac was born. Can you imagine? 2.5 decades of clinging to a promise that felt more impossible with every passing year. Why did God take so long? It wasn't to torture Abraham and Sarah, it was to strip away their reliance on human timing. The birth of Isaac would be so miraculous that everyone would know it was God's doing, not human planning. The spiritual principle, all have our own calendars. We like to think God will follow them, but his kingdom doesn't operate by our deadlines. Delays force you to shift your trust from your schedule to his sovereignty. They move your faith from a God fits in my plan mindset to a my life fits in God's plan reality. Application to you today. Maybe you've been asking, God, when, for years now, but the better question might be, God, how do you want me to trust you in this? The truth is, if everything happened according to your plan, you might give yourself the credit. But when God's timing unfolds after every option you had has expired, you can only say, this was all him. Emotional crossing. Delays aren't God's way of forgetting you. They're his way of teaching you that your hope isn't in a date on a calendar, it's in a faithful Father who's never late. And when you finally see the promise fulfilled, you'll realize the wait wasn't wasted. It was a training ground for trust. Way number 6, delays refine your character for the weight of the blessing. A real-life scenario imagine giving a 10-year-old the keys to a powerful sports car. They might love the thrill, but they don't yet have the maturity, skill, or discipline to handle it. What was meant to be a gift could easily become a danger. In the same way, there are blessings in your life right now that you're not ready to carry, not because you're unworthy, but because God knows that without growth, the very thing you're asking for could crush you instead of bless you. Biblical example, Joseph's long wait. When Joseph was 17, he had dreams of leadership, sheaves of grain bowing to him, stars representing his family honoring him. But before those dreams came true, he was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. For 13 years, it looked like the dream was dead, but in that time, God was refining Joseph, teaching him humility in Potiphar's house, resilience in prison, and wisdom in interpreting dreams. By the time Joseph stood before Pharaoh, he wasn't the arrogant teenager who bragged to his brothers. He was a man molded by hardship, prepared to save nations in a famine. The spiritual principle blessings carry weight. Influence, opportunities, relationships, and callings all require a foundation of humility, patience, and discernment. Delays are God's workshop. They are where He shapes the kind of person who can not only receive the blessing, but sustain it. Application to you today: if you feel like God is holding back something you're praying for, ask yourself, am I being prepared to carry this, or am I just waiting to receive it? Delays aren't punishment, they're preparation. And sometimes the longer the wait, the greater the transformation happening in you. Emotional crossing: when the day finally comes and the door swings open, you'll look back and realize, if God had given it to you any earlier, you wouldn't have been ready. But now you're not just ready to receive it, you're ready to honor it. Way number 7, delays align you with the right people and the right to mingle real life scenario. Sometimes what you're waiting for isn't just about you, it's about all the moving pieces God is arranging in the background. Think of a massive orchestra. You might be ready to play your part, but the conductor can't begin until every musician is in place, every instrument is tuned, and the timing is perfect. If God rushed your breakthrough before the other parts of the story were ready, it wouldn't have the same impact. Biblical example: Esther's perfect moment. Esther didn't become queen overnight. Before she could stand before the king and save her people, she spent a year in preparation. Even after that, she didn't immediately reveal Haman's plot. She waited for the right moment, the right banquet, the right conditions. Her delay wasn't wasted time, it was divine timing. The moment she acted, every piece was in place: the king's favor, the enemy's arrogance, Mordecai's position, and the law's opening for reversal. The spiritual principle: God's timing is about synchronization. Your life intersects with other lives, and sometimes is not yet means He's preparing them. 2. He's aligning you with mentors, allies, open doors, and opportunities that would have been absent if you'd arrived too early. Application to you today: that random person you meet in a season of waiting might become the connection that opens the next chapter of your life. That delay might place you in a location, job, or community that will later play a key role in your calling. Emotional crossing: when God finally moves, you'll see the intricate weaving of relationships, opportunities, and timing that no human could orchestrate. And you'll realize the delay was never a denial, it was the setup for something far greater than you could have arranged on your own. Way number 8, delays deepen your dependence on God. A real life scenario and the answers don't come, and the path ahead feels uncertain. You discover something you might not notice in seasons of abundance: how much you actually need God. In the delay, the props you've leaned on start to fall away. You realize people can't sustain you, money can't calm your soul, opportunities can't guarantee your peace. And so, your heart shifts. Instead of asking, when will this end? You begin asking, Lord, how can I walk with you through this? Biblical example: Israel in the wilderness. The Israelites didn't spend 40 years in the wilderness because God lacked power to deliver them faster. In Deuteronomy 8-3, God explains why He allowed the delay. He humbled you, causing you to hunger, and then feeding you with manna, to teach you that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. The wilderness stripped away their self-reliance and taught them daily dependence. Every morning, they had to trust God for manna, just enough for that day. The spiritual principle: delays shift the center of your trust. They remind you that the goal isn't just getting to the promise, it's walking with the one who promised. When God becomes your source in the waiting, you'll be steady when you finally step into the blessing. Application to you today: if this season feels long, maybe God's showing you something deeper than the thing you're waiting for. He's teaching you how to pray with persistence, how to listen for His whisper, how to lean into Him when you have nothing else to lean on. Emotional crossing: when the delay ends, and you won't just walk into your promise. You'll walk in with a stronger faith, a steadier heart, and a deeper relationship with God. And that, in the end, is worth every minute of the wait.